good afternoon and good morning to those of you on the West Coast. Thanks for taking the time out of your busy schedules, and welcome to today's talk and presentation on the last patient coordinator that you will ever hire. My name is John Petrone, president of Practis, and joining me today is CEO Maddie McLean and President Jonah Selner, who are the founders of Boost Patients. Today, we're going to cover a topic that talks about how practices can maximize the efficiency of their patient pipeline. So Maddie and Jonah, before we get started, can you tell us a little bit about Boost Patients and what you all do?
Would love to. Thanks, John. Yeah, let me introduce us both. And before that, let me say, if you joined this because something caught your eye and you thought, man, we're struggling with converting leads to patients or getting more patients into the clinic. If you think you want to use AI, and if you think you're tired of trying to hire, attract, manage a patient coordinator or scheduler, then you're in the right spot. We're about to talk about what we think is the most expensive problem for private practice today, especially as technology has changed, as consumer behavior has changed, and expectations have changed. So we're going to jump right into that. My name is Maddie McLean. I'm the co-founder of Boost with Jonah. And for the last 5 years, we've been obsessing over leads that come into a medical practice and don't make their way to a procedure or a treatment. I'm not going to tell the long story, but this whole thing started because I was in the back of a fantastic private practice and got to see all of their marketing, their numbers, their leads, what was being said on the phone, how they were getting followed up with or not getting followed up with. And what I wondered, coming from I didn't come from the healthcare world. And in any other industry, the amount of money and the number of leads that get generated for medical practices, for most industries, it would be unacceptable, unsustainable. And a lot of these specialties they're profitable enough that you can make it just fine, even if that system's not dialed in. But what we see now in the last couple of years is every lead is now more precious, right? Every self-pay lead, every patient that raises their hand it's more precious. We need that person. We need the revenue. So I think this is a very timely topic. Jonah and I have been business partners this whole time. So I'm the CEO, he's the president, and we're looking forward to a great webinar.
Wait a minute. I thought as long as patients can find you and that you've got some high performing marketing campaigns that generate a ton of patient leads, that you're all good. Are you saying that it's not the case?
Oof, man, I wish that was the case, but no. In fact, you made me think of an analogy. One practice we work with, let's say they generate 1,200 website visitors a month, and they get a very healthy number of consults out of that. Another practice, when we started working with them, they got 30,000 website hits a month, but they're doing less volume than the clinic that gets 1,200 visits. And so I think that goes to show, like, oh yeah, well, I'll sketch this up in a second, but you've got to have that's table stakes. You've got to have someone who knows what they're doing, like a practice generating the eyeballs. But then there's a whole separate ball game from that moment to someone stepping onto a procedure table or in an OR. There's a lot that happens in there. So that's what we're going to talk about.
Makes complete sense.
Okay, you guys ready?
Let's do it.
Let's start with this. There's two, we've been preaching this message a long time. There's two silent killers of private practice. Number one is employee turnover. And number two is too many new patient consults that don't move on to surgery. And if you think about that, you think, yeah, we have a turnover problem. Most clinics don't ever calculate the cost of that, the cost financially, the cost with distracted time, training them, onboarding them, managing them, and also the hit it takes to morale when there's turnover. So that's a huge one. It doesn't show up on your P&L, probably doesn't have a scorecard, no one's tracking it. And then number two, too many times the doctor is sitting in front of a new patient and that patient doesn't end up going to a procedure. So if you take those two things combined, it's, if you look up and say, oh, suddenly the numbers aren't good, or the bank account's not good, or the P&L is not good, these two things have a lot to do with it. So let's start with let's start with my little silly sketch here. So I'm going to switch screens because this makes a lot of sense when you can see it. Can you guys see my my Crayola drawing here?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Every clinic, if you're watching this and you're involved in private practice, you have a funnel. So this is the dorkiest, simplest funnel you'll ever see, but this gets the point across. So up here at the top, this is where a company like Practis comes in. You've got to have traffic to the site. In today's market, I mean, you guys tell me, but if someone comes into a clinic and they skip the site altogether, that's the 5%. Maybe they, even if they call the clinic, they had to find the phone number, they hit the website. So your traffic gets generated. Let's call it ads. That can be Google and Facebook. Let's call it organic traffic. You're investing in SEO. You've got referrals. All of those things are driving. You've got to have a strategy and tactics. And probably in this day and age, you've got to have a budget getting eyeballs to the site. That is job number one. However, what we've learned is then this whole journey starts. And so from our John, you could maybe chime in on what you see, but from us looking at clients' Google Analytics, it's about 5%. 5 out of 100 people that hit that site are ready and willing to take the call to action, meaning they fill out the form, they call the number, they do the thing the site wants them to do. It's roughly 5%.
That's correct. Roughly 2 to 5, depending on user experience, and there's a whole bunch of other factors, but that's accurate.
Yeah, and Jonah and I were having this conversation earlier. It's when leads are coming into a practice, it's interesting because sometimes it seems in the medical world you can look at the outside world as binary. Hey, people either want to come in here and get this procedure or they don't. And we don't see it that way at all. We think, oh no, there's so many stages from you found out about the problem, you're in the consideration phase, you don't think it's for you, you do think it's for you, you're hunting for providers. Like there's all these things you have to go through before you end up coming in. And if you think about your own behavior, how many websites have you visited in the last month and you did nothing on them? I've probably hundreds for me. And so for the clinic to get an alert or an email or a phone call for someone to do the thing, it's a minor miracle. The fact that someone has taken the time in their life, in their job, in their chaos to visit your site and submit a form and pop up to you and show up to you, those are valuable golden eggs, and it's a minor miracle. So the traffic comes in at the top, and then here's the stages that we define. You have the traffic, and a certain number of that traffic becomes leads. You're lucky if it's 5%. So if we asked you as a clinic, hey, if I go to your website and I go to this form, it looks like that's what you want people to do, either schedule now or contact us. And they say, yeah, that's what we want people to do. That's how the journey begins. We say, okay, when that form gets completed, that gets counted as a lead. And let's just throw out numbers here. Let's say you're, what's your website traffic? 1,500 a month. Now, I may mess up my math, but I'm just going to use big rough numbers. You're getting 1,500 hits a month, people plowing through the site, and 100 forms are getting submitted. Everybody with me? And of those 100 leads that come in, we know you're not getting 100 people that schedule that initial appointment. So let's call this scheduled first appointment. And what are we going to call that? Let's call it 70. Fantastic. 70 people a month are reaching out to the clinic saying, I think I want what you have, and please put me on the schedule. So you're getting 70 of those, then getting closer to the bottom, completed that first appointment, the most important appointment, and let's call that 50, just for good, clean, easy numbers. And then finally, a certain number of people are going to make it to the revenue generating event, the thing that pays all the bills, pays our salaries, pays the rent, Christmas bonuses. That's what we want people to get to. And let's call that, I don't know, 40, I'm just guessing. Now, amongst all medical specialties, these numbers vary wildly for all different sorts of reasons. But even if you just take this and say, most people would say, yeah, this is kind of how it goes, and we would say, oh my goodness. But if we're talking about a procedure that's, let's just take the low end. How much do you get for each of these procedures? Well, we get $1,500. So $1,500 is what's available, and we lost. Look at that. Look at the drop off, right? We're not even talking about paying for more ads or getting more Facebook interaction or social media or SEO. We're talking about, no, these people came to you, raised their hand, gave you their contact information, and expressed a high degree of interest. But somewhere between filling out that form and scheduling that first appointment, we lost an enormous percentage of those people, 30. So, there's 30 times 1,500 that we lost. Then between that first appointment and completed, another 20 times 1,500. And then from completed consult to completed procedure, we lost another chunk, another 10%. So I'm not going to do the math because it gets confusing. But if you step back and say, oh, yeah, what if we just got 5 more leads to schedule appointments and complete the appointment and go on to procedure? This is when we talk about, hey, you got a lot more juice left in the lime. You don't need necessarily more limes. This can be a huge expensive problem. Even if you've got a company like Practis doing a bang up phenomenal job driving qualified traffic to the site, the clinic still has to take care of the sales process. I know I'm talking a lot, Jonah. Am I missing anything yet?
No, and these
No,
are these are probably conservative numbers. I know you just made them up, but I think that the fundamental issue we're seeing here is just because a lead comes in, there's still a lot to do after that, and there's still a lot of juice to squeeze, and I think that's what you're about to get into.
Yeah, and
Exactly.
that is just magnified when when the cost of getting procedure done or what the revenue nets to a practice is 10,000, 15,000. Think of things like hip replacements, knee replacements, weight loss surgeries, penile prosthesis. Those are very profitable procedures for practices month in and month out. So you take that number, multiply it by dozens, it's pretty severe.
Yes, I use 1,500 because I think it's the lowest it could possibly be, and even using that is dramatic. And you're right. We've got procedures where the self-pay collection is $8,500, and we've got clinics that are getting 700 leads a month. So you start doing that math, and we're into the millions of dollars a year in lost revenue.
Yep. I'll let you continue on, Maddie. By the way, your diagram belongs in a museum.
I'm thinking about licensing it. Yeah, the issue, let's talk about this point. But I'm not just saying anecdotally that most clinics have an issue with this, and I hope when we do Q&A we get to hear some feedback, questions, thoughts. There are a few clinics that have their follow-up dialed in. I would say 9 out of 10 they do not. And it's not because they are incompetent. We know that. If you've been inside of a clinic, and we've been inside many clinics, in the back of the clinic, there's so many things going on at all times, so many appointments, so many calls, faxes, emails, and almost different than any industry. It sort of gets flipped, where in most industries, when new prospective customers are hitting you up, you've got a department or at least a couple of people that are in charge of that. And so they say, hey, I'm in charge of sales at Acme Brick Company. Ooh, I just got a new website for them. I'm going to pursue this person, talk to them, follow up, overcome objections. So it's a whole department. And in the private practice world, there's so much going on. And I've never been in a practice where they said, yeah, we don't have much to do. Everybody has a smooth schedule. I've never seen that before. So in a private practice, it can turn into the phone is ringing and those forms are coming in, and people are saying, oh, it's just such a pain. And, if you're the clinic, if you're the administrator or the surgeon, you're saying, how are you treating my leads? I'm paying money for them. We've got this staff. I went through medical school for this. And all to have that phone ring and someone say, just put them on hold, we're super busy. So that's kind of the first stage of our philosophy comes in is, man, the world has changed so dramatically. And so we don't think AI is cool. We'll talk about that in a minute and talk about how we're using it. It's a very useful tool in the toolbox, but it doesn't solve everything. So in our philosophy, you've got to follow up with patients and automate this process using AI, automation, and human personal touch. If you can get that mix of people together, and there's lots of different tools out there, this is what Boost does for a living. I'm not here to sell Boost. I'm here to teach what this problem is and hopefully help you identify if you have a bottleneck in your funnel, because if you can fix that, it will wildly change the number of patients coming through. And well, yeah, we're not going to get into the bottleneck at this point, but just a stat. Well, there's a number that says 85% of people want to hear back within 60 seconds of reaching out to a clinic. Otherwise, they'll move on to something else. That could be a competitor. That could be a different solution, or it could just be, the biggest enemy, which is doing nothing, going back to what they had before, because this is not emergent. So the match gets struck, and you have just a few seconds to use that struck match before it fizzles out. So when we started, we were pushing clinics to say, oh, you've got to get back to these leads within the same day, the same work day. And over the last year or two, we've shortened that and said, that's no longer good enough. When a lead expresses interest, you must instantly get back to them, respond to them, engage them, encourage them, overcome objections to get them on the schedule. So the speed to lead is most important. And that's what we use the AI piece for. I have a couple notes written up on my whiteboard, so I want to make sure I didn't miss anything.
And I think that speed to lead part sometimes is overlooked from the clinic, where they think, we get back, we do a pretty good job of getting back to our leads. And at least anecdotally, from what we've seen with the clinics we work with, that is often an overestimation. Right.
Well, and not even anecdotally, was that the last time we did our full-blown mystery shop, which is we identify a list of, I forgot how many private practice clinics were on there, 40 clinics, different parts of the country, different time zones. And we reach out to them and pretends to be a prospective patient. So we submit the form, we call the clinic, and we wait, and we document and take screenshots and timestamp and say, there's a series of questions that we ask. How quickly can I get in to see the doctor? What's the all-in self-pay price? Things like that. And so we want to know what those answers are, but we're most interested in how quickly are these people going to respond to this lead that came in. And I should go find that spreadsheet. For some of them, it's never. It just got overlooked, went into a black hole. Someone was busy, went to spam, whatever. But the lead never got a response. I forget how many that was. It was a handful. And then for another big chunk of those, it's days. It's over 1 business day. It's over 2 business days that it takes to even get a response. And then there's a small amount of those clinics that are getting back to people within 5-10 minutes, which is a home run. So that funnel that I drew, you can also call it a bucket. We have this presentation. It's called your clinic it's a big bucket, and you're putting things in the top and you're working them along to let procedures come out the bottom. And we say that there's 3 big issues that put holes. It calls a leaky bucket. So the 3 leaks, and this is, I think this is maybe the most important point, is there's 3 things that have to be fixed for this to work correctly. Number 1, leads don't get responded to quick enough. That's table stakes. You've got it. You can use AI now. You can use other pieces of software to get back to leads instantaneously. Number 2, they're not followed up with using the right medium. So that's on our homework list at the end. But you've got to ask yourself, hey, when a lead comes in, how do we get back to them? And for most people, it's one way. Hey, they sent a form. We got an alert. We emailed them, and most people don't want email. The majority want text message, but some want email, but some want a phone call. Some want to go through text message and then lead to a phone call. So if you're not offering all three of those, you got a problem, because people don't even know how to say, hey, I wish I could take this to a phone call. They just stop responding and they drift off because it wasn't offered. So our philosophy is immediate engagement, not within 60 minutes or 60 seconds, but immediate, within 6 seconds. Engage the lead, text them, email them, and pick up the phone within the first, I think we're down to within first 10 minutes, and give them a call. So
early bird gets the worm has never been truer.
Exactly. And then the third leak in your bucket is length of follow-up. So how fast can we do it? In what ways can we do it? There's 3 of them. And how long does that last? Because for the vast majority of clinics, they would say, well, some clinics say, hey, if they want on the calendar, they'll reach out. Some people will email or call that person. And some clinics will email and call them a couple of times more to try to get them in. And what we've learned is, oh, no, it has to last a lot longer than that. You must keep following up. It's permission marketing. So no one's getting spam called, right? We're not dialing random phone numbers asking if they want to have surgery. These are people that raised their hand and said, I'm interested. I think I want to come in, or I have a question. And so we have a system of outreach that we built that will text, call, and email for a certain number of times that we've dialed in for a certain number of weeks, and then forever until that person either says, yes, thank you. Oh my gosh, we were busy. We were traveling overseas. We moved to a new house. My husband got a new job. There's all sorts of reasons why they say, oh, it was 6 months ago that I filled out that form, and now I'm ready. I'm ready to come in. Thanks for following up. Or, the other people say, well, don't patients get mad if you've tried for 2 weeks and they haven't come in? And we say, no, they don't get mad. They asked for the outreach, and all they have to do is request to not get it. And then they're taken off the list, and that's the end of it. So,
and one of the biggest reasons why we see clinics not being able to do that follow-up is it's too much work for a single human being to do, even if they had full-time focus on it. Most clinics we work with don't have that full-time person focused just on follow-up. And even if they did, there's those leads start to build up. People who have filled out the form but have never moved forward. And so it just becomes unmanageable. We also see a lot of other clinics, they don't have a centralized place where all those leads even go. So you get a website form, maybe you get an email notification, you as the clinic get a notification, ooh, we got a website form. It sits there for a few hours. At the end of the day, you got a few minutes, you call, you leave a voicemail, you hope they come back. But then where does that lead go to manage them?
Yes. In any other industry, we were surprised when we came into the world of healthcare, because we both came from heavy sales and marketing background, and every company using their CRM of choice. And a lot of clinics and doctors are not familiar with the term CRM, customer relationship management, which is basically, it's a database. Everyone's heard of Salesforce and HubSpot, and there's Pipedrive. There's 100 of them, but some of them work better for different industries. And so essentially, that's what we built. Is you got to have a database that shows visually where all of your leads are in the pipeline, show who they are, what stage they're in, and then that's the system that one person can use to quickly manage all the leads, move them around, schedule tasks and follow up, click to text them. That's the mothership of revenue. So it's
And the key mistake we see a lot of clinics make is just thinking, well, we have our EMR, that's where the patients go. But what we're suggesting is there's this middle layer here between when your lead reaches out. Not all leads actually end up having a consultation with you. So what about those people that don't move forward? You need some way to manage those people. And if you can do it effectively, if you can track them, if you can follow up, if you can get back quickly, you can squeeze a whole lot more of actual patients out of the leads that your marketing is generating for you.
Great point. And makes me remember, if you ask a clinic that doesn't have a database like this, if you say, hey, where are all of the patients? They say, the patients are in the EMR. That's where they live with all their data. Exactly. But where are all the people within 100 miles who've reached out to you in the last 3 months and expressed interest and are on their way to a consult or to surgery. And they say, it doesn't exist. I mean, we don't have it. Maybe a spreadsheet or a sticky note or something, but I just think anymore, to be competitive and efficient, you've got to have a home base for those people. Not least of which, because it will show you visually where clients are getting stuck. If you don't have a visual and a tracking mechanism, you can see the numbers, you can see consults are down, you can feel something's off, but you can't put your finger on it. And if you have this database, you can say, hey, hold on a second, there's 48 people that are waiting to hear back about their insurance coverage. I thought we were getting back to people within a day or two. Like, oh no, it's 15 days. Sorry, you didn't know, but one lady, she left and this guy's new and it got dropped. It's 15 days for people to say whether or not they have insurance. So that's just one example of, hey, people are getting stuck in there and you can't see it. So also, I will say, there are some people who come to work in a healthcare setting because for all sorts of reasons, but it's the minority who says, I came to work in the clinic because I want to be a sales machine. I'm a marketing follow-up sales machine. It's like, well, that's pretty rare. And even if you have that person who's qualified and has the skill set, it would take an enormous amount of training and management, right? We're talking scripts for follow-up, scripts for engagement, how to use the email platform, how to use the text platform, how to make sure everything's HIPAA compliant, how to schedule follow-ups, and what's the right cadence to do those in. So that alone would be a part-time job just to train that person to be full-time in the job. Get back. Nope, we're not ready for homework yet. And then I didn't want to leave this. How are we doing on time?
1:27 Eastern.
Okay. Yeah, I think it would be appropriate to talk about some results, because there are things that kind of move the needle and get a little bit of attention. But what we have seen in the healthcare space, if you get a platform like this in place to manage your leads, we're talking, with some even large clinics, 25% growth without having a system, and then turning on a system, 25% additional surgeries in the OR. We've seen clinics cut their cost per lead in half. Obviously, if you're pouring money in the top and you're not capturing those leads, you're not nurturing them, you're not following up with them and treating them each like they're a golden egg, you're going to lose a lot more. So just by putting the system in place where you can track and follow up, cutting the cost of each of those leads in half. And then we've seen other clinics take their self-pay volume and more than double it. And I'm a big believer in self-pay. They're going to kick all the tires. They're going to read every Google review. They're going to visit multiple websites because they have the cash, and they're going to be a little bit more choosy than that insurance patient who feels like insurance is covering it. So that's three big examples of we're talking about dramatic results from getting a system like this in place. And so just to summarize, if you want to follow the Boost philosophy, your leads get put into a tracking system, they get immediate text, email, and personal phone call, and then they get followed up with for weeks and weeks and weeks personally until they either say, I'm opting out, I don't want to come in anymore, or I had a big question, I wasn't sure how to ask it, or I got confused with the new patient paperwork, can you help me? Or, yeah, I'm ready, can you get me on for next Thursday afternoon? And doing those things will make a huge difference. We can send this to everyone who registered too, but if you said, hey, this all sounds great, what can I take to my team, or what can I go do for myself? I think this is what you can do. This would be worth tens of thousands of dollars if you just answered these 6 questions and said, go to your own website and fill out your form, and then chase that thing through the clinic and say, hey, I fill out the form. Who got it? How did they get it? Where are you keeping track of those people? What's the follow-up? I thought we were calling them and emailing them. No, well, we were emailing, but we stopped doing that. Now we're just calling, but maybe we're not even calling anymore. So You need to get a documented system of what is our process. How fast does it happen? Is it minutes? Is it hours? Is it days? And number 6, for how long do we do this? These leads are coming in. We're most likely paying for these leads. How long are we going to stay with them before we toss them in the dead pile and say, these leads are dead. They're no good anymore. We've seen a lot of people at the 12-month mark. There's a 12-month check-in. We've seen a lot of people say, "Oh my gosh, it's been a year. Oh, I cannot believe it's been a year since I reached out to you guys. Yeah, nothing's changed for me. I want to come in." So
this is great. Thanks for sharing this, Maddie.
Yeah, I think, I want to be respectful of everyone's time. I maybe this was booked for an hour. I think ain't no way anybody's hanging out on here for an hour. So we
really appreciate you guys hopping on the call today, and appreciate your time and the time for everyone that joined. But really quick, just wanted to give you guys a moment, just reiterate where our audience can go in terms of like next steps and what they can do in terms of putting their practice and their target patients in a better place.
Yeah, thanks for that. If of course you've got our contact info, you can go to boostpatients.com and ask any question you want, and we will answer it. And if you want to have a deeper conversation about your clinic, your numbers, your leads, how much this could be costing you, we would love to have that conversation. So we call it a bottleneck assessment. So we say, basically ask a series of questions. If we're lucky, I'll sketch up another Crayola drawing, but we'll get to the bottom of, do you have a system in place that meets your needs? And if not, how much is this costing you? So we'll do that bottleneck assessment. We don't charge for it. I do those personally, and you can book that by going to this website right here, boostpatients.com/Practis.
And that's just before we wrap up, we do have some FAQ too. So that's kind of the end of the core presentation here, but definitely feel free to hang on. I think there's a lot more meat to get to. I know we didn't touch too much on the AI component, how all of this works. Obviously, there's the self-audit that Maddie walked you through. We wanted to give everyone, regardless of whether you schedule time with us, going through that audit yourself, diagnosing your own bottlenecks in terms of your own process, diagramming that out is very valuable. But to schedule time with us and actually help you walk you through that is definitely, we recommend doing that.
Yes, I'm sorry, I missed the whole key part about the AI piece. We would love to, and maybe someone will ask it in the FAQ, but just before you leave, we kind of laughed at the AI tools that were available for the first couple of years in this industry anyway, and then 6 months ago, we found the answer, and it's kind of jaw-dropping to see it in action, because we take the technology, we create a knowledge base that's specific to your practice. So it's essentially giving the AI robot an avatar or a personality, and then giving it a series of FAQs to pull from. And when someone submits a question, it's not the old chatbot that you're used to seeing that you say, "Hey, are you a new patient or existing?" And it spits out the same answer. This is intuitive and conversational. So it's crazy. It's fun to watch. You feel, you don't know you're not speaking to a person, and every time you could ask a different question multiple times and they'll have a different answer. It's pretty cool. So that's what we're watching get back to people immediately. That's what we're seeing book patients on the calendar after hours or Saturday at midnight, is this AI piece that we're really happy with.
Yeah, I would agree. Just kind of hearing your talk, Maddie, it sounds like the 3 key components. Number 1 is the timeliness of the response. So making sure you're getting back to them as quickly as possible. The other factors being consistency and quality are certainly factors that every practice needs to be mindful of to make sure they're maximizing their lead flow. With the implementation of AI, one of the biggest components to how to make sure AI works the best for you is maximizing that knowledge base and giving AI the information it needs to produce a very relevant response to that lead. What sort of information should a practice gather to build an effective knowledge base for their AI capabilities?
Great question. I'll let Jonah speak to that. When we started this, we went back through hundreds of, across all clients, looking at what are their potential patients asking. And of course, it switches up for each vertical or each niche of medicine, but mostly the FAQs are the same dozen questions asked multiple different ways. And so the great question, and Jonah, you probably have more to say about that.
Yeah, just a handful that come top of mind are people have questions about financing. Depending on the healthcare vertical, people have questions about do they take my insurance? And answering those questions as a clinic is very cumbersome. You get the same 15, 20 questions over and over and over again. And you right now you're having to reply to them, or worse, picking up the phone and having to take time to answer those questions that can be very easily automated in such a way through AI that it feels very natural. The patient lead feels respected and taken care of 24/7, 365. It doesn't feel like you're being pushed into like we've all gone on to websites where we interact with some chat thing and it feels very robotic. You can tell that it's some sort of system. It spits out a support article or something like that. And it just, it's never helpful. Get me to a real human being. This AI part feels like a real human being. It's indistinguishable. It is that good in terms of texting back and forth and answering those questions. And there's a lot of new buzz in the air around AI. There's a lot of tools that say that they do it. And just from our experience, what we've learned is that the technology part is only one small part of it. Really, to dial in AI and do it well in your practice, you need someone who understands private practice clinics and can customize and tailor all of the back-end AI setup so that it actually is a positive experience for your patients. You can't just download some app or buy some tool that says that they do AI and it just works. It doesn't work like that. It's very much more the implementation and the strategy behind it that will be the key to the success of it working.
Thanks, Jonah. Yeah, I would agree with you. We tell our clients very much the same thing in that you want to be able to think of all the questions that you're answering on a routine basis for patients, the things that really suck your time. How do you take those, harvest them, put them in a place where you don't have to spend all of those hours over the course of a week answering the same questions over and over and over again? We encourage our clients to take those questions, put them on their web properties, or better yet, put them in the form of video content that you put into YouTube. You can tag it for search, but you could also take that where that content is inventoried or harvested, and then make sure that is in your knowledge base, so that when there is that AI functionality, it is going and pulling the right information and the personalized information that you want the patients to be seeing as they're interacting with that functionality.
Absolutely.
Great point.
I think when we last spoke, you mentioned some statistics for follow-up is when they go and they start asking some of those questions that you guys had put up there. Are there any sort of statistics that the folks on the call can reference to try to get an understanding of if their pipeline is performing as it should be?
I think in terms of follow-up and documenting your process, first of all, most clinics we work with don't have a documented process that everyone follows. So step number one is, do you have a documented process? That's already a big game changer. Once you do have a documented process, then it's dialing it in. And there's that trade-off of, okay, well, the longer we follow up with people, the more human time that costs. And that's why a lot of clinics now are looking to an outsourced solution like Boost to just take that off of their hands, where the clinic literally, when a new lead comes in, the clinic isn't involved. They just see appointments showing up on their calendar. If you do want to DIY it, there's some good rules of thumb. We already talked about the speed to lead component, getting back immediately via multiple communication channels, especially text message, which is the communication channel we're seeing the most engagement with so far. In terms of the follow-up process, a good sales rule of thumb is that the majority of your leads will not convert until you've reached out up to 7+ times. there are very few clinics, if you're getting any significant amount of leads, who have that kind of manpower to call, email, text, voicemail, call, email. Like, they just can't do it. They can't keep up with it. But we would recommend, within getting back immediately. If you don't hear back, charting out a follow-up plan to follow up at least 7 times within those first 2 weeks of someone reaching out to you, and then having a system in place that at least once a quarter, you're re-engaging everyone so that truly no one ever slips through the cracks. Because if you're giving up on leads, if you call them once, leave a voicemail, hope they call back, you are leaving a ton of potential patients on the table by not having a system in place.
Well said, Jonah.
You've got nothing to add to that?
No, I agree. I don't know. I don't want to just keep banging the same drum, but I think clinics, I wish we could offer it for free and say, hey, let us do it for too much, because if you saw the result, if you go from not having a system to turning one on, it's just, I mean, it's mind-blowing. It's dramatic. You'll see patient comments you've never seen. You'll see attention you've never seen. You'll see consultations. So
yeah, I can only imagine if you've got a larger clinic and you continually have new staff that's coming and going, and you're having to train, but if you're doing very sensitive procedures, life-changing procedures, and that front line, if you will, that comes in and handles the appointments, it could be a really big challenge for them to be knowledgeable on the conditions that a practice treats and the procedures they perform, and helping that patient be comfortable. And I could see that the consistency of the messaging can really be a challenge if the team is large, the front office team.
Yeah,
that's such a good point. And one of the cool things about AI is that you can train it to be cheerful 100% of the time. That's not always the case with human beings who are crabby, have to sleep, have to eat, have to go to the bathroom. To have the consistency in messaging and be able to joyfully follow up, joyfully answer questions 100% of the time with the human touch aspect, that it just goes a long way.
Yeah. One more quick point. If you take a snapshot of most private practices and say, who gets the new leads? Sometimes it's someone who's been there for a while, and if they've been there for a while, they've got a lot of other things on their plate. They're doing a bunch. Some clinics say, we let the person who sits at the front, they respond to those leads, and you say, well, I mean, these are your most expensive, valuable potential leads, and you're giving them to the person who just started last Thursday, and they're not even really sure what goes on here. They don't have the vernacular. No one's trained them anything. So really all they can do is say, yes, you can get an appointment. I need your social, your date of birth. It's like, wow, that's not what we're talking about. This, in any other industry, this would be a $100,000 plus full-time position to say, it is your job to take all of these leads and love on them and nurture them and follow up with them, do whatever it takes to get them on the calendar. That's what it would be in any other industry.
I did have kind of one last question from my end, was so you talked about doing a test submission, as if you're a potential patient, you're submitting a form. Where else can our audience look in terms of making sure that the leads that are coming in are being effectively followed up with that consistency and the quality? Is there call tracking or things like that they should be implementing? Or
Maddie, maybe you're going a different direction, but I think it'd be fun to tell that story of how we initially started working with one of our clients, of them doing their own kind of self-audit.
For Panhandle?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Basically the first medical client we ever landed, I worked out at the gym with one of the surgeons, sort of knew him a little bit, enough to know that. And also my sister had the surgery that he does years before. So I was thinking, we're doing this for other industries, building sales pipelines, follow up, adding in automation to automate repetitive tasks. And God, man, I think this would work great for elective surgery. So I went home, filled out their contact form. I said, I'm a cash pay patient. I'm ready to go. What's the next step? And I took a screenshot and put the date and time on it. And then I waited and waited and waited, and nothing ever happened. I never got anything. So I was able to get that story in front of the surgeon, and he lost it. He's like, "Ugh." So he starts tearing through the office saying, where are the forms on the website? Who's getting those leads? And it was a bunch of, oh, I think well, I used to get them, but now don't you get those? And I wasn't, no. So they finally find them in someone's junk mail. There's 40 of them in there. And, it just kind of unintentionally shined a light on this expensive problem that, oh, the form was even broken. I mean, it's going to spam. So just getting on a whiteboard, and if you could draw out what is every step of interaction we have with people before they step foot in this clinic, that should be it'd take you 30 minutes to draw that up and say, okay, so this is how we currently interact with the leads. Now, are we okay with that, or do we need to upgrade it at each stage of the journey? And if you want a great example, just call a Land Rover dealership or call the Four Seasons, and then take note of how you're treated. That's how we think these patients should be treated.
I do think it would be a great process too for yourself, for your own clinic, to mystery shop yourself at a regular interval. You might catch someone on a good day, but also just because the process is working at some interval in time, when turnover happens, when you get busier, things change. And so to continually have a process to revisit and say, are we on the ball here? Is our system still working? A lot of times we'll see clinics, it's working for a while, they take their eye off the ball, they get busy, and then they don't realize that the last 4 months, their leads have been getting very poor follow-up. And it's a bunch of patients have been slipping through the cracks. They think it's a marketing problem. They call up John and they say, what are you doing with my ads? But it's not the true problem. It's a lead follow-up problem.
All right. Well, I think we're up on our time here. But Maddie and Jonah, I really appreciate you guys hopping on. You covered on some excellent content for our audience to engage, interact with. And again, I think the website link was boostpatients.com/practice. Feel free to reach out if you have any questions, or if you're looking to get some of that, getting that workflow audit. They'll be happy to jump in and help. But hope everyone enjoys the rest of their day, and thank you for your time.
We'll be sending out
John,
a
thanks so
replay
much.
link as well here too for everyone.
Yes.
Great. Thank you,
Great.
everyone.
Thanks everyone.
John.
Thanks, guys. See ya.